to discuss the CARES Act. So on the call, we have President Hudson, I see Councilor Hogan, Councilor White. I don't see any other councilors. Oh, Councilor Green, I'm sorry. Councilor Green. And then we also have Commissioner Collins, and you can, if you want to introduce anybody from the county that you want to speak, you can do that as you please. But we'll go ahead and get started with Commissioner Collins. If you want to just give us a brief overview of the CARES Act, and then as we're talking about it, if you want to invite Commissioner Merrick in on the conversation, you can go ahead and do that.
Thank you, Councilor Allen and Councilors. So Michael Collins, Commissioner, Neighborhood and Business Development. I do deeply appreciate your interest in this. It's something that we all care passionately about, and specifically this being how are we utilizing and dealing with the challenges related to the HUD-specific funding from the CARES Act, CDBG and ESG funding from the CARES Act, as we've been able to partner with our friends at the county. And Commissioner Merrick, appreciate you being here, and then Natalie Gallagher, appreciate you being here. So this came about for two reasons. One, wanted to make sure that we understand from the CDBG CV1, ESG CV1, and ESG CV2, in other words, the first three pots of money that we got from the CARES Act, how that's going, and lastly, the fact that we have in front of us the budget for the last round of funding, which is the CDBG CV3 is how it's labeled. None of us understand what happened to CV2 for CDBG. It was something we never got any communication on, so we don't know that it technically existed. So that being said, you know, we were able to circulate a little bit of info on how it's going, what the challenges are. But unless there's any questions on my lead-in, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Merrick so she can address some of these points.
Okay, thank you. We can do that. And before you get started, Commissioner Merrick, I also see Councilor Bay, Councilor Driscoll, and Councilor Majoke on the line as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. Happy New Year to everyone. So, as you're fully aware, city approached the county, I would say, probably April and May, about the opportunity to get CARES funds, the CARES funds focusing on helping people who are facing eviction due to lack of payment of rent. As COVID continued, we continue to kind of push out the start date because this is HUD funds, and HUD was continuing to update their rules and regulations. So we officially launched it publicly around September of last year. I want to really thank Sue McMahon for working with us continuously on making sure that we are following the HUD regulations appropriately. And I do want to point out Natalie Gallagher. She is a Supervisor 1 who is the point person. She is managing this program for the Department of Social Services. And I've asked her to correct me if I'm wrong with some of my details, but she has been working on this project from day one. So once we open this publicly, and as of to date, we have under 3,000, or to be precise, 2,871 calls, applicants, however you want to state it, that have inquired about getting assistance for rent. And as you can see from the numbers we've shared, the numbers that we've been able to assist is very low. I don't believe this has anything to do with our desire to get the money out as fast, as quickly as we hope to. It has to do with the fact that we don't make the rules. We are following HUD guidelines. So specifically with the ESG funds, the Emergency Grant Solutions Funds, we have to always follow income eligibility, but the primary holdup for moving forward with processing these applications has been the lack of eviction notices. The moratorium that the state has pushed continuously, and we have the moratorium at least going through now to the end of February, has really made it impossible to use the ESG funds. We need the eviction notice to process and use the ESG funds. So that is really the holdup. As far as the community development block grant funds, we need again, you got to be income eligible. We only need a note, letter, something from the landlord saying that this tenant owes us rent. But the other holdup with both ESG funds and community development block grant funds is that the rent going forward has to be affordable. And so what we are seeing is that we can pay up to 6 months of rent, but because COVID has gone longer than 6 months, many of the applicants do not have sufficient funds to pay the balance owed after we would use HUD funds. So that makes issuing and using the HUD funds moot because we haven't solved the problem to prevent the eviction. And the other problem is we have to make sure that the rent going forward is affordable. And most of these individuals have lost their jobs or have a reduction in their income, making their current rent not affordable going forward. So we are with follow rule, working with not and have us on for the or going forward, but they're
Commissioner Amir, can I interrupt you for a second? Yes. You're kind of breaking up. I don't know, is it just on my end that she's breaking up, or is that for everyone?
No.
I think it's county related because I noticed that both Sarah and Natalie had issues with their video when the little thing going up.
Okay. Oh. All right, we'll try to suffer through it.
Sorry.
So it's okay. It's not your fault.
Okay. All right. My only final note is that we're continuing to try to find other resources that we can pair with HUD funds so that we can keep people housed, and that's the most important job that we all have here. We cannot have people lose their housing. Hot off the press, the county executive just made us aware of potential new funds coming from the U.S. Treasury that's going to be available to counties that can help with rental assistance. We are diving into the details to see if that money can be paired with the HUD funds so they really can prevent evictions, and keep people stably housed. So we just heard about it literally an hour ago. We don't have a lot of details on that, but we're very, very hopeful.
Councilor Allen, can I ask a quick question?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, Sarah, so you talked about the criteria. How is this information distributed to the community? Because I take in probably 3 calls every other day about rent assistance that they can't get.
Right. We did a mass mailing out to SNAP recipients in September, and information. And we try to send information out to business HR officials in September. We have 2 flyers that are on our website. If there's a better way to get the information out to make people aware of what resources are available,
Yeah.
I am all ears.
And I'll be willing to talk about that, because a lot of these folks don't get SNAP, they don't get social services, they don't get any of that, but they are in need of assistance.
Right. So we're missing the mark with that particular population, the ones that aren't already in the system. And those are the ones that will probably qualify as far as the ones that can actually afford their rent going forward. And we're kind of missing the mark with that population.
Yeah, if we can figure out how to get the word out, again, we do have some administrative funds, but I don't think we have a lot of administrative funds to kind of do advertising, TV advertising. But if we could figure out how to get these flyers circulated.
We can help you. We all have
Great.
social media. We can help you.
Wonderful.
So, if I may add, what we've also done is we've pushed it out to all of our social service partners as well, so that pretty much anywhere that you might go for any help around housing has been made aware of it multiple times. And if you call DSS, the very first prompt for calling DSS is specific to this assistance.
Okay. One of the things you had on Commissioner Merrick, you mentioned you guys have referred 208 people to other services. What were the other services that you guys are referring people to?
Yeah. Natalie, can you chime in?
Yes. Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So what happens is social service employees are like the go through. We funnel all the calls into other agencies. We do when they call, we do an assessment to see what program they might be eligible for. So everyone that would be eligible for ESG, the Emergency Solutions Grant, and they live in the city, they are either referred to Catholic Charities or Salvation Army. And then one of those agencies then becomes their case manager and assists them with getting the back rent paid or moving. So at first we were able, because we needed the actual eviction or court notice for ESG, we started with the people that were doubled up with family or friends and needed to move into a new place so that we could help with security deposit. So now people are actually going to eviction court, or it's scheduled. It might get adjourned, but they're scheduled. So it has picked up a little bit there with being able to assist people. And then for CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, to be eligible for that program, they had to have had a COVID-related reason for non-payment of rent or utilities. And so those people, after going through the assessment, referred. So these people do not need an eviction note, but they do have to live in the city of Syracuse. And then those people come back to a couple employees that work at DSS to assist with getting the back rent paid. If they score high on the assessment, even if they're CDBG, they get sent to Catholic Charities for more intense case management and help with back rent. So even though we take the initial call, we're not always the one that decides if they're eligible for the grant or not. We just do the initial assessment. And then the county ESG people also come back to a couple of DSS employees. Again, the same with them, though. Also, they have to have the eviction notice.
Okay, so I have like 3 questions. First, how much is remaining in the ESG funds, and then how much for CDBG?
Yep,
You have the amount.
Yeah. Well, I have the amount spent. think I just sent Sarah the updated numbers.
Yeah.
And
The vast majority. I mean, ESG, 0.6 million, only spent 15,000. For CDBG, 1.25 million, and we've only spent about $50,000. So we have the vast majority to spend, but we are tied because of the regulations we have to follow.
Okay,
And
and is
somebody
there a
that's got-
penalty? Is there a penalty or is there a deadline that we have to use the money by?
We have 2 years to spend the money. I'm hoping we don't take that long. 2 years. So when did we,
So it's September of 2022.
yeah.
Okay. And one last question. I think I saw Mike LaFleur on here from Housing Visions. Is he on here?
Hi, yes.
Hi. So I've received several calls and emails from people that live in Housing Visions. So since they haven't received an eviction notice, is this one of the reasons why they wouldn't be able to get the rental assistance, because you guys aren't giving out the eviction notices through Housing Visions?
On our end, you mean?
Yes.
I'm not sure. That would be something that Sarah could probably chime in on. I'm not sure how. I guess I'm confused by the question.
So people that are living in Housing Visions now they can't pay their rent. How are they, if they can't apply for this funding because Housing Visions hasn't issued any eviction notices? Is that correct?
I don't know. I'd have to check with property management. I don't think we have, but don't quote me. There might have been one or two, but normally we, during this whole time frame, we haven't, and there's no reason to, especially with the laws, but our goal is to kind of keep people in, and we do have some funding that we've been trying to get out to some of our residents that will communicate with us, but I'd have to double check with our property management team to see if they've actually issued any evictions.
Okay.
if there's anyone in those, go ahead, sorry, Sue.
Okay,
No,
Councilor
this is
Allen, I
just
can probably answer that for you. Even if the landlord gives an eviction notice, that's not suitable for ESG. You have to have like a court date or something like that. And
Okay.
because of the moratorium, yeah, they're not able to get the court date.
Right.
Got you.
Yeah, it would be nice if HUD would change the guidelines now because of the moratoriums. That would be very helpful, and then we could get some more money issued. But I was going to say about people that live in Housing Visions, if they do have that COVID-related reason for non-payment, we could help them now. So basically, those people that have the COVID reason, we're just going through the line and calling them back and helping them. So the people that we've already helped, they're the ones that called the first couple of weeks in August. So that's just what we're doing, calling back the people that started calling us in August. We do call right away back the ones who leave a new message and say they have a court date for eviction, and we prioritize those and put them at the top of the list. And usually they're the ESG people, so they get sent to one of those other agencies.
Okay, one last question, and then you guys. Is there a maximum on the amount? I know you said they'll pay back 6 months, but the actual dollar amount, is there a max?
Not really. It has to be within the rent reasonable and fair market rent for the area. So as long as their monthly rent is reasonable compared to the other ones in the area with similar, then no matter what their rent is, we would pay that up to 6 months.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the other counselors?
How many evictions have there been? I mean, how many evictions are they going through? I thought the courts were closed for a while, correct?
That's the problem. It's pretty much the courts are pretty slow.
So if the courts are slow,
they have reopened, and they are having virtual court. It's just not as many as they would before. And I think, I don't know if probably know the lawyers are on this call, but I know go ahead, Sharon. Yep.
That's not, since our training, the governor signed a new notice. So even though the courts were open during November and up to Christmas, they are now on a new moratorium till February 26th.
Right, but that
So
moratorium says that if they have a COVID reason, then they won't be evicted. So the courts shouldn't be shut down.
No, just so you understand, I got this straight from my legal advisors.
Okay.
Every eviction is stopped again till February 26th. After February 26th until May 31st, evictions may be brought, but those affected by COVID will not be able to go forward. So absolutely correct. Out of all the time that we've dealt with this pandemic, I believe the courts were open for like 6 weeks in the city of Syracuse.
Mhm.
Sorry, I just gave factual.
Okay.
Thank you.
Counselor Allen, I have one more thing I want to, because I need some clarification. I think I said this early on when this all started. And yes, we need to worry about the lower income folks. But to me, this doesn't pertain to middle income, apparently, from everything I'm hearing.
So, Council,
Go ahead.
yeah. So, Council President, you're right. You know, the HUD regulations. Every frustration that we have with getting the money out the door, it goes back to the HUD regulations. And so, the income people that have been middle income and have dropped down, we may be able to reach them with CDBG because that's at 80% as opposed to the 60%. But we're not, you know, the people that are really at you know, that were fine at their income and are now still above that 80%, but no longer have the income to meet their bills. This is not accessible to them, and that's a significant issue.
And I know that's not what we're talking about right now. So let me ask this question then. So is there anything in plan? Because there's a lot of folks out here hurting across the board. So what do we do as a city and a county to address the issue for middle income folks that may have dropped a little bit, but now they don't qualify?
Council President, this is Sharon. So we have to look at other resources and find other ways. I'm praying that Ann, the information that she shared today that the county exec shared would give us some flexibility, particularly about income eligibility. When it comes to public dollars, that is far, the ability to go beyond those income restrictions is limited. I'm really hoping that Ann, when they peel, when Sarah, when they peel back the onion on this information she just shared today, would give us some flexibility with income eligibility.
Yeah, it's
okay.
We don't have the details. It truly is hot off the press. It's called the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, U.S. Department of Treasury. But it does look like it's similar to community development block grant dollars, but it allows us to pay up to 12 months and 3 months into future rent. So this looks like it's the most flexible of federal funds that we've seen to date, but we really need to get more details on this. But
Yeah.
I do think this is hopeful.
I was also on that call with that Sarah's referring to. I just got off of that call and heard about it. And from my understanding, the monies will go probably to the counties and the cities. The regulations aren't nearly as stringent. And they were going to email us all the information as soon as, you know, they said within an hour after it. So I should be getting that information and I'll be glad to forward it.
Great.
Also, next week on the 13th, they're going to be having another webinar, and it's directed towards city and county leadership. They're looking to get mayors, county executives, all those folks on it. And so I'm not sure what time on the 13th. I'm hoping it'll be in the information that they're sending me, but I'll be glad to share all that so that we can all get educated on these new funds. But it sounds really good because the regulations aren't as stringent. It's, it's a lot more money, more than they've ever given out before. So a little hope there.
Thank you. Any other questions from the other counselors?
Councilor Allen, if I could add one other component to this. So one of the things that we participate in is a conversation with other mid-sized cities through Enterprise, specific to housing-related issues. So Oakland, California, Arlington, Texas, just kind of around the country. There's 6 or 7 of us. And one of the challenges is that what those cities are using to address this specific issue is the money that they accessed because they had a municipality that was over 500,000 people that came through the original CARES Act that since Onondaga County was 460,000, we did not have access to it. And so I think one of the other things that we can do is advocate to our federal delegates that for whatever the next round of relief is, we need to make sure that it is accessible to all communities and not just large communities, because that's a flexibility others have that we don't.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I just wondered, I know it might be kind of fruitless, but have we talked to the federal representatives about loosening any of these restrictions?
So, Councilor, I have talked directly with HUD about it, and I have not talked with any of the federal elected officials' offices. From HUD's perspective, they do not feel that they are in a position to adjust rules for each state. This is the rules that specific to ESG, for example, the eviction moratorium is what is making this money so difficult to access. And when we've talked with HUD about it, HUD has said, hey, look, that's a state rule. That's on you guys. Most states don't have that in place. And so this money becomes more accessible for the states that are not having the level of protections for their residents that we have.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Sharon?
Okay, can you hear me? I'm an unmute, right? Okay, so one correction, I was on a call with Senator Schumer and have had extensive discussions with Joe from Schumer's office. Senator Schumer fought to get the money in this stimulus act that passed to municipal entities. He was not able to get it to small entities. So the legislation specified that only entities of 200,000 or more, which is our county, will be getting the money. So that's what it is with the Treasury money. My question for is whether anyone has inquired with not just HUD, but also national organizations. I'm really concerned. I really would like to have some lawyers look at the language that says that a definition of 21 days from eviction is only an actual court order. I think we need to maybe have corporation counsel or county legal. And I just want to make sure that every municipality in the whole United States has been deciding that the only wording that means, and whether and there's a national low-income law project, maybe they can go into this and see if that is not appropriate, whether it was never in the congressional legislation. A couple of other things which I was wondering for some data. First of all, you mentioned that there was some data information sent by Michael Collins to the council. I wonder if that would be a public document so that the rest of us advocates on the call could see what the numbers are. I also am wondering, there were 2,871 inquiries. Do you have data on exactly how many of these individuals have been responded to? Exactly how many of these people have been denied? For what purposes have they been denied? I think this administration and many of us work in data. So, you know, you're giving anecdotal and we have anecdotal information. I'd like to see
Yes, we have all
data
that
analysis.
information. Yeah, we have
What?
all that information.
Okay. In addition, I share Council President Helen Hudson's comments, but I do want to point out that 80% of median is getting to the people that I'm most concerned with and I'm hearing from is the working poor. I'm seeing in my own family and personal connection that more middle income people can work from home. But those people who worked in specific restaurants, are essential workers, frontline workers, they qualify under the 80%. I think that we can do, using the creative out of the box of both the city and county, let's get someone to pay for PSAs. Let's get donated assistance in developing PSAs. We need to reach these workers who, as you know, has been said, are not connected to our agencies. When we target our agencies, they're doing a great job getting to the poor people who are connected, but the people who have always, I talked to so many tenants, they string together the money. And we need to find a way. And the reality is that there has not been to date, as far as I know, any public outreach. And with all due respect, when we had our training session, we were still told by the city and county officials that the flyer on the program was only available for human service workers. It was not available to the general public. So I want to see the county and the city, and calling on our partners like United Way, let's get together and make a big push. We have over so much money. What would it hurt to do something creative out of the box?
Commissioner Merrick, is there a line item in there that you would be able to use some of the funding for advertising, or no? No, I see Sue shaking her head no.
The government, a nonprofit does not have to pay for advertising. We get PSAs all the time, and you could get, it's done by Fair Housing Council. Others have gone to advertisers and said, would you help professionals? I'm sure people would volunteer to develop the advertising for free for us. This is a public service and we're all working together. I don't think it's money.
Councilor, do you have just a moment for me to respond to some of that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we have also at City Hall, we are actively discussing PSA and utilizing that. That's something that we're talking about. As far as the outreach, the initial outreach from us and from DSS was very specifically to those that were already at the margins and were most at risk because they did not have anything to fall back on. And so that's really where the focus has been. And we are working to make sure that we're able to address that group first. The challenge is that we've got such massive need and then such restrictions right here. So we were strategic in where we wanted to put our energies in it. That doesn't mean that we can't be broader, but it was with thought and it was intentional. The last thing, regardless of what we may find for a legal interpretation regarding HUD's rules, if HUD disagrees, then we don't get paid back. So it's what we're able to we can disagree all we want, but if HUD says, yeah, your legal interpretation is not one we respect, then the city of Syracuse is out the money. And as we all know, that's not a position that we're able to be in. So that's the challenge to that is that conversation really must be between us and HUD or the federal elected officials.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Collins. Do I have any other questions?
I was just going to add, we have had some higher income people that we actually have helped already. And they heard about like we have no record of them with TA, SNAP, even Medicaid. And they heard about us through their apartment complex. So the landlords are giving the information and having, their tenants call.
Okay,
So that's one good thing.
thank you. Councilor White?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you very much, Councilor Allen. I just have a quick question related to the Department of Treasury Emergency Rental Assistance Program, right? So is it my understanding that that's something that the county is looking at to provide additional funds that don't have such stringent ties tied to them?
Correct.
Okay.
To be, we just today, because we just.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering because I just looked it up. You said there's a website, and I went and looked it up, and it appears to say that any municipality that is going to apply would have to apply by January 12th. So I was wondering, are you going to be in a position to be able to do that?
And I just got an email saying that the application was submitted. So we're on it.
Awesome. That's good to hear. Thank you very much.
Yep.
That's it for me, Councilor Allen. Thank you.
Yep. Did they give a dollar amount for that?
No, I wonder what it is. We have no idea.
Okay. And I think Sue McMahon, you were going to say something?
I just wanted to say that the saving grace, I think, for the whole system right now, because we have all this money, we have so many restrictions with it, but this new Treasury money, which they said we would be getting really soon, it targets those, we prioritize those 50% or below, but they said that's the priority. We can serve 80% or below, and they want us to focus on the most impoverished areas in our community, first. So I really think that with this money coming, if we have to then develop a system to disperse of it. If we add to the system we already have, it would just give DSS more opportunity to get somebody and identify what funding source is going to work the fastest for them, and to get the money out to those folks. So, they claim they already showed us, but it was too small for me to see, how much each state is getting, and they said that it was going to be coming quickly. So we'll have to read the details.
Right. Okay. But the intent is that we would use it with all the other funds to mix and match the best we can, assist every applies. That's our goal.
Yeah.
Add that is social media
Out again.
Maybe that way people can distribute the flyers, because I'm sorry, Sharon, I never heard that they were not public and to be widely distributed. So
we missed the beginning of your
that would be great. What I have done is contact, I know that the major companies like Housing Visions have helped their tenants, but each time there's something, I have a list of landlords who I've sent out the material and urged them to do it. I think, but I think we need to get it out there to the landlords. That's a great source.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments? No. All right. So you guys will all be ready Monday to vote on this, I'm assuming? We good? Okay. I only see Councilor Driscoll and White. Okay. All right. Well, I'm all set. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Commissioner Merrick. Thank you, Natalie and Commissioner Collins. Thank you, Sharon Sherman, for joining as well, and Sue McMahon. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity.